Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I'm Brian Zipsy, and as always, I'm joined by Matt Schiffman. Matt, that's not your usual background. Matt, tell us where you are.
It sure is not. I am sitting in the backyard at Saratoga in front of Big Red Springs, and I've got a cup of the great Big Red water that I know is a tradition with you, Brian Zipsy. So here's a little sip for you, Brian.
Well, I sure appreciate that, Matt. You know, it looks like I think this is a record for the best backdrop of any horse center we've ever done. Well done. I'm envious, but I'm very happy for you that you're already at Saratoga. Opening day, folks, of course, is tomorrow. Matt's there getting ready for opening day. What a beautiful Big Red Spring backdrop you have, Matt. I don't know about you, but I can only take a sip of it and then quickly stop drinking. But I usually do at least take one sip.
You have to, Brian. It's good luck for everybody to have a little Big Red.
Tradition at its best, and Matt is at Saratoga. Matt, what we're going to do, we want to preview the Saratoga meet. I think for us and for many of our viewers out there, this is the greatest thoroughbred horse racing meet there is. We can't be more excited for the beginning of Saratoga. So what we're going to do, Matt, is we're going to kind of talk about the big races, the biggest of races at Saratoga this year coming up. Of course, we don't know all the fields yet, but we know a lot of the big names that are pointing for these fields. And so I guess what I'm saying is we're going to talk about what we're most excited seeing at Saratoga 2015. Matt, let's start with the first Grade 1 of the year is happening in about 48 hours. It's the Grade 1 Diana. I remember when Weah ran 145 and change nearly 40 years ago, and now we have a field of 7, but it's a pretty salty field of 7.
It sure is. The cards that have been drawn so far at Saratoga have had really good sized fields, but I'm okay with this field of 7 in the Diana. It is loaded.
Loaded, and I think one of the biggest stories, Matt, you got Tepin going for a 3rd win in a row. You got Chris Clement bringing Hard Not to Like back after maybe her biggest score yet in the Grade 1 Gamely out west. But maybe the biggest story is Stephanie's Kitten. She's been one of the best American turf mares the last few years, and she's tried in this Diana. She tried in 2013. She was flying for 3rd. She tried in last year where she just missed in 2nd. And now this is Diana attempt number 3 for Stephanie's Kitten. Is she going to get it done this year, Matt?
Well, if we go on the mathematical progression, 3, 2, 1, she's a cinch. But her first 2 starts this year, she's going to need to be better than those to beat this kind of field.
I don't know. I liked her race down in Florida, but last time, yeah, she was only 4th at Belmont, and a couple of the horses that beat her are in here. Of course, Waltzing Matilda, making her first start in the country, won the New York Handicap, and even her entry mate, Kitten's Queen, beat her in that New York Handicap. But I think at Saratoga, Stephanie's Kitten will be at her best. But Matt, my top pick, I'm not going with Hard Not to Like is Hard Not to Like. Tepin has been great this year, but my first pick is actually, I'm hoping for some odds on My Miss Sophia. She's bred for grass. She's always shown quality speed on the dirt, and we saw her first win at Belmont, her first race on turf, and it was a doozy, beating Allowance fillies Belmont weekend.
It sure was. She got on the grass, and I think she said I should have been on the grass all along. She went a mile and an eighth, I think, in 1:46.4, and just blew away that field. So those other horses better be on their game, because she could get out on that lead and not look back.
Well, our Horse Center viewers, Matt, already have my top pick of My Miss Sophia. Do you have a top pick in the Diana?
I like My Miss Sophia also, but Tepin has been brilliant so far this year, so I can't discard that one.
Okay, so we know the field for the Grade 1 Diana. Most of the Grade 1 races, we don't know the fields yet, but let's just talk about it. We can start with Sunday's race, the Coaching Club American Oaks, Matt. And I think the 3-year-old filly dirt division this year is kind of in flux. Lovely Maria put a couple wins together. but she disappointed in the Delaware Handicap. We're going to see some nice fillies in the Coaching Club American Oaks, and then going into the Alabama later in the meet. I'm a Chatterbox is coming back, big in New Orleans. She did great things in New Orleans for Larry Jones. I'm hoping to see Include Betty and her dazzling stretch kick. I think Keen Pauline is going to be there after her upset win in the Black Eyed Susan. But what about Carolina? Carolina is a lightly raced daughter of Curlin who ran big on Acorn Day.
Yeah, we've got the first two winners of what used to be the old Triple Tiara, with Include Betty, who won the Mother Goose, and Carlina, who was dazzling in the eight. And again, another terrific field in there. I think if I was going to give a pick, I might be leaning a little bit towards Carlina.
Carlina looks like she could be any kind. I'm always kind of partial to Include Betty. I've been following her since the very beginning of the year down in Tampa Bay. Do we know she's in the field yet, Matt? Have you heard that she's in the coaching club?
The word was probable. I haven't seen the entries yet. I think they should be out shortly.
Okay, so that'll be interesting to see if any of these 3-year-old fillies kind of take charge of the division in the Coaching Club American Oaks on Sunday, and then of course later in the meet, the prestigious and historic Alabama. If we're talking 3-year-olds, though, even more exciting than the fillies is the 3-year-old colts, Matt. Of course, we have American Pharoah and all of his wonderful accomplishments this year, and he's Jersey Shore bound. I'll see you there, by the way. But maybe second place in the Glamour division. Second place is wide open. I've been partial to Frosted during the Triple Crown. I thought he ran excellent races in the Derby and the Preakness. We're going to see him. Who else? We're going to see Texas Red coming back after a great Breeders' Cup. Upstart, Materiality, Japan looks like a real up-and-comer. What do we think we're going to see in the Jim Dandy and then the Travers, Matt?
Yeah, again, the 3-year-old division, 3-year-old boys has been terrific all year, and we got horses coming back from their Triple Crown efforts. We got Texas Red again. I'm looking forward to a big effort again from Texas Red. I think Texas Red is going to win the Jim Dandy.
He's going to win the Jim Dandy, and that's over a pretty good field. I don't know, Frosted. You know, if I had to pick one 3-year-old to be the second best 3-year-old colt this year behind American Pharoah, I think my decision would come down to Frosted and Texas Red. And they're both at Saratoga, so we're looking forward to some good races in the Jim Dandy and the Travers. And how about the older horses, Matt? The Whitney and the Woodward are usually terrific, and I think this is the deepest division of all.
Again, deep division with the boys, and again, a wide open division. At this point, we got a whole slew of horses who have run 1 or 2 spectacular races. But again, to win this division, we got to see some of these horses put another win or a couple wins together. And we've got a good bunch with Honor Code, who was wonderful in the Met Mile. We've got we've got Tonalist, who I'm going to kind of describe as a little bit of a mystery horse right now. I don't know what to expect from him anymore, with blinkers on and blinkers off, and a big race and a disappointing race, but he's going to be in there and can't be discounted. And then we've got horses like Lee, who's been terrific at times, Liam's Map, who's been terrific at times, the Speedy Moreno, and the gutsy FNX, who's been so courageous in his last 2 starts.
Yeah, Matt, you named a bunch of them. I like all of those horses. Who knows how good Liam's Map is, by the way. He's just been terrific in the amount of races he's been able to run, which hasn't been enough, unfortunately. But he's on target for the Whitney, and he could possibly be the horse to beat in there. You mentioned Honor Code, Tonalist, FNX, Lee. Moreno's the defending champion with the wire job last year. I don't think we can forget about Noble Bird, who's been absolutely terrific this year from the Cassie barn. Really did great things at Churchill. Easily could have won both of Churchill's older races, and of course did win the Stephen Foster. And don't forget, Matt, about my old friend returning. I don't think he's going to be back for the Whitney, but maybe we'll see Palace Malice in the Woodward. And you know I want to see Palace Malice again.
Absolutely. I saw his owner, Cott Campbell, on the back stretch this morning, enjoying the morning works.
Yeah, Cat Campbell adores Palace Malice. I know that for certain, and I know for certain also that Cat Campbell would like nothing more than to see 100% healthy Palace Malice back. It's running at Saratoga. He's even talking about maybe two races, maybe a little prep, and then maybe the Woodward. I think is far more likely than the Whitney, which is coming up quick. So hopefully we'll see Palace Malice back. Matt, we got to talk about the test a little bit, don't we?
Yeah, again, we got a bunch of speedy 3-year-old fillies.
Speedy 3-year-old fillies, and a bunch of them are in that. How good are they? I mean, the Hollendorfer filly out in California, she's only run two races. Her name, folks, is Super Majesty. She's only run two races, but she ran 108 in both of them. She's got speed to burn, and the test. I'm assuming she's going to make it for the test. That's the last thing we heard. That would be quite a test for her to step up in her third lifetime race, but she looks like any kind. You got last year's champion, Take Charge Brandy. Remember how she started a big run with that big upset in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year? Of course, she ran at Saratoga as well last year. She ran pretty well at Saratoga. So we have that to look forward to. A tough spot for a return, though.
Yeah, for sure. And we know that Jerry Hollendorfer is not shy about shipping east and taking a shot with his talented horses. So I'm pretty sure that one's going to come out, and that's going to be super exciting.
Super exciting. Should be another big field. The test is almost always, folks, a great race and fantastic style. Has looked excellent of late for Baffert. Irish Jasper just keeps picking up those speed horses and winning these stakes races out in the East Coast. So yeah, it looks like the test, as usual, is going to be a really good race. Um, Turf, we haven't talked a lot about the turf males. I don't know how excited I am for the distance turf horses at Saratoga this year. I think the Million will probably come up a little bigger, the Arlington Million, of course, than the Sword Dancer. But there's always the hope. And you know, I talked to Charlie Lepresti about a week ago that Wise Dan is going to make a return to Saratoga. And Matt, if we get to see Wise Dan and the Bernard Baruch, I think I have to. I think I have to catch an instant flight out there and be there for that one.
Yeah, and it was great to see Wise Dan come back and have his first timed workout at Keeneland on the turf course there. And he went pretty quick for the first time out. I think it was 48 and change, which I thought was pretty impressive. I don't think Charlie's bringing his string up to Saratoga this year. I don't think that has anything to do with Wise Dan, though. I think it's just that he doesn't have horses that he thinks are going to be running at the spa. So if Wise Dan's going to go in the Bernard Baruch, they'll ship in for it.
Yeah, Lepresti actually has a nice streak of nice wins at Saratoga going every year for a while now. All I can say, Matt, is he couldn't have been more tickled with how Wise Dan is recuperating, how well he's doing. So the fast work is no surprise at all to me. I don't throw this word around with horses, but Wise Dan is truly a great horse. And of course, we remember what he did last year at Saratoga.
Yeah, I remember doing some of our earlier shows, Brian, and every other word that came out of my mouth was Wise Dan, Wise Dan, Wise Dan. But he's kind of been a little bit forgotten. So I would be so excited to see him back on the track again.
Yeah, Wise Dan, whether it's Saratoga or we have to wait maybe to Woodbine for the
Yep.
Woodbine Mile, either way, we're just thrilled to have him back. Hope he's 100% healthy. And Lepresti told me he wouldn't race him if he wasn't. But yeah, Wise Dan at the spa would be just more icing on the cake, Matt. Speaking of icing on the cake, it seems Dwayne Lucas wants to have his cake and eat it too with this Mr. Z horse. What an iron horse he's been this year. And a lot of people are praising the announced decision for Mr. Z to drop back in distance after winning the Ohio Derby, running a very good second in the Indiana Derby. He's going to come back to the Grade 1 King's Bishop later in the meet to take on sprinters in a 7 furlong, what's become one of the best races of the meet in my eyes as well.
Yeah, that will be his 9th start of the 3-year-old season and his 16th career start. So an interesting move. But honestly, Brian, I find just as an interesting move was the announcement that Speightster is also being aimed for the King's Bishop. And we know Speightster is a speedy horse, and the 7 furlongs should be great. But I thought he looked awfully good going the mile in the Dwyer, and kind of expected them to continue and see if he could get a little bit more distance. So I found that announcement awfully interesting also. And that's going to be a tough horse for Mr. Z to tackle.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people praise the Lucas decision to bring him back in distance, to cut him back in distance, Mr. Z, that is. And I don't know about you, but I don't like his chances against a horse like Speightster and maybe a few other really fast horses in that 7 furlong King's Bishop. Speightster, the only reason I didn't mention Speightster before when I was talking about who's the second best 3-year-old male is because I knew that Mott is not bringing him up to 2 turns yet. Of course, the Dwyer was a little bit longer, but it was still 1 turn at Belmont. He looked great. He's the horse to beat at 7 furlongs, or if it was a little farther. But he'll also be tested. But of the two, Speightster or Mr. Z, there's no question in my mind who I like better. It's Speightster for Belmont.
I'm with you 100% on Speightster, Brian.
So, Matt, we talked Diana, we talked the 3-year-old fillies with the Oaks and the Alabama, we talked the Colts with the Jim Dandy and the Travers, the Whitney and the Woodward has all those good older horses pointing for Saratoga. The Test and the King's Bishop are going to be great. We're both hoping that maybe it's Saratoga or maybe soon after we see Wise Dan. Saratoga 2015, we can't wait. Matt, what's the atmosphere there like one day before opening day?
Well, there were lots of people milling around the backstretch trying to get a little bit of early Saratoga action. There's quite a lot of bustle here, last minute work going on. And while I was setting up here in the new reserve a picnic table area that's been a little bit controversial, there were a lot of horses schooling in the paddock. So there's a lot going on. And tomorrow, day one.
Day one tomorrow. It's our favorite meet of the year, folks. I hope you enjoyed our Saratoga look forward. All the big races coming in Saratoga 2015. It starts tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on HorseCenter. Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure. And I'll see you at the Haskell, and I'll see you at Saratoga, too.
I'll see you next week, Matt. I can't wait. Thank you all for joining us. As always, we're brought to you by Horse Racing Nation and Derby Wars. We'll see you next week.